Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Several resource speakers supported proposals to amend the Constitution, while one of the framers of the Charter is raising concerns regarding possible corruption that may arise from the proposed changes. To tell us more about this, we have Marian Enriquez reporting to us live from Manila. Man, good afternoon. Could you give us a rundown of what went down at today's Senate hearing on Chacha?
Yes, Charles, the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments, together with the Economic Affairs, opened its deliberation on the proposed amendments to the 1987 Constitution. Committee Chairman Francis Pangilinan presided the hearing. He stressed that by the end of the day, they hope to determine whether a push for charter change is necessary, given the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic downturn. They will also focus on the procedural aspects today, as should the amendments be proposed by a constitutional convention or by Congress itself, acting as a constituent assembly, and if the Congress convene as CONAS, should both houses vote jointly or separately. For Senator Bato de la Rosa, who filed the resolution of both houses number 2, convening the 18th Congress as a constituent assembly, relaxing the requirements for entry of foreign investments will make our country attractive to investors. He said, with high investment and local industries, our country will recover faster from the recent economic loss. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian said that unemployment is a huge problem in our country and that a lot of OFWs are returning without any jobs. They wish to know how the proposed amendments can be used as a tool to generate jobs, investments, and help Filipinos recover as fast as they can. Several resource persons were invited. Former Supreme Court Associate Justice Vicente Mendoza said that the time is ripe for charter change, given the threat of pandemic and the great challenge of securing in this country good government in the 2022 elections. He prefers that a constituent assembly is suitable, less expensive, since it will not involve the election of delegates. He added that should Congress meet as CONAS, both houses should vote separately because the Senate is a smaller body which can be easily overwhelmed or outvoted by almost 300 members of the House. Justice Department Chief of State Counsel George Orta II shares the same sentiment. Meanwhile, Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya said that the current restrictive economic provisions make it harder to create jobs for Filipinos, thus restricting Philippine competitiveness. He added that removing restrictions would allow the Philippines to obtain benefits of foreign direct investments at the soonest possible time. For former Supreme Court Justice Adolfo Azcuna, liberalizing the economy will solve the economic impact of the pandemic. However, Attorney Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, argues that the RBH2 is a new and bigger source of illicit money than the pork barrel. It is also insidious because it is made to appear to be harmless, and that's being represented as only giving Congress flexibility to make actual changes at an appropriate time. Charles, the deliberation is still ongoing, and Pangilinan said that they will thoroughly discuss the substantial aspect, which will include the economic provisions, on the next hearing. Charles?
Thanks for that, man. That was Marian Enriquez reporting to us live from Manila. The government will implement new testing and quarantine protocols starting February 1. Arriving passengers, regardless of origin, shall undergo facility-based quarantine upon arrival. They shall then undergo RT-PCR testing on the 5th day from their arrival in the country, unless the passenger shows symptoms at an earlier date while on quarantine. Once he or she tests negative, the passenger shall be endorsed to the LGU of destination, where the passenger shall continue the remainder of the 14-day quarantine under LGU monitoring. The IAPF has likewise heeded the President's request to defer the relaxation of the age-based restrictions in MGCQ areas. Meanwhile, the DICT has been authorized to procure third-party services to strengthen campaigns under the Philippine COVID-19 Vaccine Information Management System. The Meat Importers and Traders Association warns that the country's recovery from African swine fever will not happen in 5 years. Speaking with Cito Beltran on One News's agenda, MITA President Jesus Cham mentioned Spain's 3-decade battle with ASF as an example of what's to come. Although Cham admits that eliminating pork import duties can cause pork prices to drop by up to 45 pesos. This will help keep prices low for both traders and consumers.
Now today we have ASF, and we had already pointed out to the government that the ASF is not a simple disease to eradicate because it took Spain, I think, 30 years to eradicate ASF, and it needed a lot of technology and a lot of monetary help from the European Union. So when ASF came into the Philippines, it was bound to happen. We will be experiencing pork deficits for many, many years to come. So the solution, which applied then, applies even more now.
The city of Taguig is now ready to receive, distribute, and administer COVID-19 vaccines as it conducts a dry run for its city's immunization program. JC Cosico joins us live from Taguig to give us more details. JC, good afternoon. Could you tell us more about the city's dry run?
Charles, the city of Taguig continues its preps for the expected rollout of COVID-19 vaccines. This morning, a dry run was held in its own vaccination site. Vaccine recipients should first secure their Taguig ID with a corresponding QR code before they can start the process here at the vaccination hub in Lakeshore Complex. QR code will be presented at the registration area where they will receive documents like the vaccination card and guide, including a consent form. The next step is counseling, where a video about vaccines will be played, while counselors stand by to answer additional queries. Vaccine recipients still have the option to reschedule or decline the inoculation itself at this stage. Should they continue, health checks will be conducted in the screening area to be followed by the immunization itself. After receiving the shot, the vaccinees have to undergo monitoring for 30 minutes for possible side effects. There are at least 35 community vaccination centers in Taguig, including 4 more mega vaccination centers for the immunization program. The LG earlier allotted 1 billion pesos for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccine. And of its over 1 million residents, 670,000 are targeted to receive COVID shots, while 716 local health workers are expected to administer the vaccine. The LG has also partnered with Orca Cold Chain Solutions that will be in charge with the storage and transport of the jabs to vaccination sites. Charles, Health Chief Francisco Duque III and Vaccination Zarcarito Galvez Jr. once again called on the public to trust their procurement process, saying they will only get the vaccines that are proven safe and effective. And they also expressed willingness to receive the vaccine to instill vaccine confidence among the public. And now Galvez also mentioned that 1 million doses of the jabs are expected to arrive next month, with the healthcare workers in highly urbanized areas and high prevalence of COVID-19 cases will first receive the jabs. And Duque also asked the public to respect the president's decision to have himself vaccinated in private, as this will, but he hopes that the president will change his mind, as this is what other world leaders are doing. Back to you.
Thank you, JC Cosico, reporting live from Taguig. We'll be back with more stories after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. The PNP presented more evidence to support their case against the persons of interest in the death of flight attendant Christine Dacera. To give us the latest on this, we have Camille Samonte. She's reporting to us live from Makati. Camille, good afternoon. What additional pieces of evidence were presented by the police?
Charles, the preliminary investigation into the death of Christine De Sera has resumed today at the Makati City Prosecutor's Office. Police investigators presented additional pieces of evidence to strengthen their case against the suspects, but the PNP refused to reveal details as to the strongest evidence they claim to be holding against those allegedly involved in the death of De Sera. Of the 11 respondents, 5 appeared before the fiscal. Their legal counsel is confident that the documents they presented today will speak for itself. The PNP has yet to submit the results of the toxicology test, which will determine if De Sera had ingested any illegal drugs before she died. De Sera's family remains firm in asserting that Christine was raped and drugged before she died. Both the respondents and De Sera's family are still waiting to obtain a copy of the laboratory results from the Makati Medical Center. Meanwhile, the PNP has yet to implement the order to relieve the 4 Makati police officers for alleged lapses and negligence in handling De Sera's case. Charles, the continuation of the preliminary investigation in De Sera's case is scheduled on February 3. The prosecutors requested the respondents to submit their counter-affidavit on the next hearing. Charles?
Thanks for that update, Camille. That was Camille Samonte reporting to us live from Makati. Amid the cancellation of our FIBA hosting in February, MVP Sports Foundation Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan is supporting the decision to go with the delayed Tokyo Olympics this year. Pangilinan said Filipino athletes should participate in the Tokyo Olympics, especially if vaccines are already available for them.
I've always believed, Ami, that why should you let this virus run your life? I think finally the Japanese have taken the position. We don't care. If there are no spectators for the Tokyo Olympics, we're going to push through with it. And I think that's being supported by the IOC.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join Sean Yao later at 2 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We're One News.
The latest decision of Justice Carpio is the closest to the intent of the Constitution. But I think there are 3 things that must be changed. One is the limit of 3, because the party list system is a proposal